This solar gate light fell apart today. The plastic case dropped to the ground and the battery pack came loose. I still remember the day I bought it. I liked the idea that the sun could charge it during the day and at night the gate would light up without extra wires. For a while it worked like a quiet little guard outside the house. But outdoor parts live a hard life. Sun, rain, dust and vibration slowly wear them down. Most people would throw this away. I want to check it first. Inside are lithium-ion cells. Fully charged, they are usually about 4.2 volts, so I will test each one first. The first cell shows 0 volts. For a lithium-ion cell, that is not worth risking. I will set this one aside. The second cell shows about 2.3 to 2.4 volts. That means it is deeply discharged, so I cannot trust it yet. I mark it with a pen right away. With old cells, one bad cell mixed into a good group can cause real trouble. The third cell shows around 4.2 to 4.3 volts. It still has a high charge. But voltage alone does not tell the whole story. I still need to see how it behaves under load. The last cell is also dead, so this old light is not all useful, but it is not all trash either. A few parts still deserve a second look. At this point, I already have an idea for the cells that may still work, but first, the deeply discharged cells need the correct charger. If a cell gets hot, swells or refuses to charge steadily, I will stop using it. With old lithium-ion cells, safety comes first. Next, I have this T-shaped clamp bracket. Normally it is used to hold small workpieces. Today, I want to turn it into a moving base. I will mount 3 wheels on it. One front wheel will guide the direction and the other 2 wheels will carry most of the weight. By itself, this part does not reveal much, but in a DIY build, the moving frame is very important. If the frame is weak, everything above it will shake, drift and feel rough. So what do you think? What can old batteries, a T-shaped bracket and 3 wheels become? Now I have an old plastic container. I plan to cut a round hole in the bottom, just large enough for a 110mm PVC pipe. I mark the circle first with a pen. Thin plastic is easy to ruin if the cut starts wrong. A crooked hole will not hold the pipe cleanly. Here I heat a utility knife with flame. When the blade is hot, it slides through thin plastic more easily. The plastic softens and the cut is easier to control. But this has to be done slowly, in a ventilated place. Heated plastic can smell bad, and a hot blade can hurt you fast. After the large hole is finished, I make a few smaller holes on the side of the container. I will not explain all of them yet, but these holes will help keep the inside cleaner and safer later. I hold a small screw with pliers, heat the tip and push it through the thin plastic. This is a simple shop trick. Hot metal makes cleaner holes and helps prevent the plastic from cracking or bending too much. If you force a cold tool through thin plastic, the whole container can deform. Next comes a large brushed DC motor. The motor only creates rotation. What it actually does depends on what we attach to the shaft. Before installing it, I mount 3 small wood blocks around the motor body. These blocks work like spacers, helping the motor sit firmly inside the pipe. I use hot glue to position the blocks. Hot glue is good for light fixing, small gaps, and stopping parts from shifting. But with a vibrating setup, the contact points must be even. If the motor sits off-center, the whole unit can shake hard when it spins. At this step, I do not need it to look pretty, I need it to sit as centered as possible. After the 3 wood blocks are in place, I slide the motor into this old 110mm PVC pipe. This pipe was left over from an older DIY project. In a small shop, a leftover pipe can sometimes be exactly what the next build needs. I add glue to the contact points between the wood blocks and the inside wall of the pipe. The goal is to reduce play and keep the motor from twisting when it runs. Now I take this RC airplane propeller. It will attach to the motor shaft and create airflow when it spins. At the front of the pipe, I use a thin cloth as a filter and a metal mesh to hold that filter in place. The cloth helps catch light particles. The mesh keeps the cloth from being pulled too far inward. At this point, some of you may already see where this is going. This propeller came from my son's old RC airplane. I bought that airplane about 7 years ago for around $40. Back then, it was a reward for him after he won a children's chess tournament. Now he is 15 years old. Time moves fast. That little toy is long gone, but this propeller still has a job left in it. Sometimes the right part from an old memory can come back to the workbench in a new way. Now, back to today's build. I start joining the prepared parts together. First, I attach the plastic container to the T-shaped bracket with the wheels. I use bolts and screws to lock the frame in place. This container is not just a cover. It'll become the main body that holds the parts inside. If this section is loose, the motor vibration and the wheel movement will make the whole setup noisy and unstable. Next, I mount a small wood piece inside the container as a support base for the motor assembly. This support spreads the weight and vibration across the container wall instead of forcing everything onto one thin plastic point. That matters with old plastic. Thin plastic can survive if the force is spread out, but if all the pressure sits in one small spot, it can crack or bend. Now I feed the wires through the small holes I made earlier. This keeps the wiring neat. It also keeps the wires away from the wheels, away from the spinning parts, and away from anything that could pull them loose. This is a series battery holder for 4 lithium-ion cells. With 4 cells, the nominal output is about 14.8 volts. When fully charged, it can reach about 16.8 volts. After the motor wires pass through the container, I trim the extra length and connect them to the battery holder. With DC power, the positive and negative wires must stay clear. The bare ends should never touch. A short circuit on lithium-ion cells can heat the wires and become dangerous. I use heat shrink tubing to cover the exposed joint and reduce the chance of a short. On the positive wire, I add a small switch. This switch will turn the motor on and off, so I do not have to remove the batteries every time I test it. By now, many of you can probably guess the build. We have old solar light cells, a brushed DC motor, an RC propeller for airflow, a filter, a plastic container, wheels, and a pipe body. But one final part is still missing. Without it, the airflow stays inside the body and cannot work where I need it. If this were on your bench, what would you add to the front? And here is the final part, a flexible, corrugated plastic hose. Now the idea is clear. We are making a homemade mini handheld vacuum cleaner from old batteries, an old motor, a plastic container, and a few scrap parts. But the shape is only half the story. The real question is simple. Can it create enough suction to do real work? Now I take the two cells that were charging from the beginning of the video. Those two are not enough, so I add two more usable lithium-ion cells from my battery box. Now I install the batteries and test the device. I will test it in my wood shop where there is plenty of fine sawdust. This is the right place to see whether this homemade machine can actually work or if it only spins for fun. Let's turn on the switch and see what happens. Wow, it works better than I expected. The fine sawdust is slowly moving into the hose. What do you think about today's DIY build? If this were yours, would you improve the battery pack, the propeller, or the hose first? Leave your thoughts in the comments. If this video was useful, like, share, and subscribe for the next project.